Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you and welcome to the Sajda Saturday morning coffee talk where we talk about life, love, and business. I'm going to chit chat with you this morning about a few of your questions. And if you have more, feel free to put them in the chat. We have a few commercials and we'll be back in about 4 or 5 minutes. Tell a friend, grab you some coffee, like and subscribe, and we'll be right back.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Peace be unto you, and welcome to Sajdah's Saturday Morning Coffee Talks, where we talk about life, love, and business. How are you all doing today? Welcome, welcome. Come on in, come on in, come on in. I hope you all had a great week. I hope so. Hope you had a wonderful, wonderful week. Um, I pray that it was productive and that if anything happened to you this week or that you got some news about something that you used it to elevate yourself. That's so important, because we have a tendency to go, okay, well, I'm about to manifest this, job or this $100,000 or this $10,000. But the bad stuff that's happening, you got to take responsibility, or we have to take responsibility for that as well. Or some news or some information that comes, we have to just go, okay, somehow, some way, in some space and time, I was vibrating in a manner that made that situation or that person feel comfortable in my space. And we got to own it. And once we own it, now we know, and our subconscious mind knows, okay, we're not going to do that again. So let's work on, right, our vibration. Let's work on who we are. That it's just so key. So key. And so when I talk to you all about us studying and learning, especially as conscious entrepreneurs, things happen. We may, have a supplier or a service provider who all of a sudden turns a corner and now they got an attitude. I had somebody I was working with the other day and I had to say, excuse me, what is going on with your tone? Why are you talking to me in this tone of voice? And I had to raise up and check it a little bit or a lot of bit. And then afterwards I had to say, okay, what behavioral patterns have you demonstrated that you can control that maybe made this person think that they could talk to you like that? Made you come up out the vortex, come up out your out your zen on them. What is that? And sometimes you may not be able to identify anything, but most of the times you can. Most of the times where maybe you let go of a boundary, you let your guard down, maybe you got a little too friendly or a little too familiar. Maybe you didn't do a good job at representing who you are. And I've had to own up to that before, where I said, you know what? I just didn't do a good job at representing who I am. And so they played me based on their definition of who I am, based on how they saw me. And I didn't make sure that representation was an elevated one. So there are times when we have to own that and we have to say, I own it. Now let me work on it. And that the beautiful thing about owning that space and owning that situation is the fact that everything in your body, all your subconscious, all your DNA, all your cells know, okay, let me get it together, right? It's like even going somewhere and let's say you didn't really present yourself properly, like maybe you didn't wear the right thing or you didn't really look the way you second guess what you were wearing or how you were presenting. And when you went, they played you. And you had to say, even if it was nothing you could do about it, you was rushing, you didn't have time to get home to change clothes, just owning it and knowing it makes a difference. Makes a huge difference. Here's another example. A lot of times when you're in meetings, this applies especially to women. You may be on a big team, or you just may be on a team where your turn to shine or your turn to present or say something just hasn't come. Okay. And there's been several meetings, and, we're talking about some other things, but your function on the team has not presented itself yet. Right. And you find yourself, I had this happen to me before. You find yourself pretty much just kind of being quiet because it's not time. And then maybe okay, it's the third meeting. On the fourth meeting, I think I'm presenting on XYZ. So you're going to get your time to shine at XYZ. But in the meantime, for meetings 1 through 3 or those other meetings, you got people playing you. It's so crazy with that a lot of times in corporate. And I'm going to say this to the men that are watching, because I know we got a large male audience. Don't start playing women like your secretary. Don't start playing women like somebody you mess around with on a romantic level. This is how a lot of men default to this style of doing business. And I'm just going to call it out. We're going to call a spade a spade. We're going to deal with it today. I've had situations where working with maybe an all-male team, and they'll say, "Oh, Wendy, can you take a couple notes?" No, because he's the administrative assistant, not me. No, I'm not taking any notes. And I'll just say no. I'll say, "No, I can't. No." And then they're looking at you because they know you taking notes. Yeah, I'm taking notes for me, but you don't direct me to take notes in this meeting. You got to be able to know when that's just somebody being chauvinist, because they figure, okay, you the only woman there. You got to be the secretary. You got to be the note taker. You got to be the one that documents stuff. You got to be that person. Some women go ahead and do it. But I've been in situations where I'm like the owner of the project, and I bring these subject matter experts together, and I may not say who owns the project, or that whether I'm working for somebody else or whether I own the project. I may not make a statement about that. And I do that because I want to check to see if the men in the room are going to play a chauvinist card. Are they going to be like, "Could you take a few notes?" Or act like I'm supposed to be doing the administrative stuff. Then a lot of times later, when they find out that I own the project or whatever, they change. Or sometimes, brothers, you all don't have a business technique. So you play women in the fold all the time like women you would date. So that's how you handle them. You get an attitude if maybe she walks in the room and she doesn't speak to you. Not that you're interested in her, not that you even want her, but you feel like this is a relationship. So she's supposed to speak to you. She's supposed to interact with you in a certain kind of way. And a lot of times when that doesn't happen, you get upset. You get mad. I was very, very fortunate for 14 years to have a business partner that used to catch this kind of stuff for me. If he would catch, another doctor or somebody acting a certain way, he'd check them real hard right away. But these are the kind of things that happen. And then as a woman, you gotta survey and go, okay. Now, a lot of times people say that the responsibility isn't on the woman. And I know a lot of men say, well, even if she did such and such, he's responsible. And I get that. But as women, we can't hide behind. There's this famous statement that the minister always says that is so powerfully true, that there's no such thing as a no good woman. She's only been made that way by a no good man. Obviously, the minister said it is true. But that doesn't then imply that as women, we don't have a level of responsibility. Okay? We can't hide behind that and not take responsibility for who we are and how we show up to the space. We have to be mindful of that. And so even though a lot of times men may try to play you a certain way, you got to take responsibility for how did you show up to the space. You may have showed up to the space perfectly fine. So when those men in that meeting I'm talking about was trying to play me like I was a secretary, I knew they were doing it, and I took responsibility for the fact that I purposely did not say when I sat down, "How are you? I'm Wendy Muhammad. I'm the owner of this project." I didn't pull rank. I just walked in and sat down, because by doing that, that's going to tell me how you're going to act on a day-to-day basis. Because this ain't church. This ain't the mosque. This is my project. I'm the boss. But I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to sit down and see how you act. Because I don't, when I'm on projects like that, I don't pull rank like that unless I have to. I look at everybody as a team member. We're coming together for a cause, and you should be very vested in doing a good job at whatever it is that you do. But in this particular case, I knew that I purposely walked in there, and I think I was on the phone, and I walked over to the table late. I didn't take a seat at the head of the table. I told my team, I said, let's leave this head seat open. Let's just all take seats around the table. I like round tables. I've done that in meetings where I put together a meeting, and I love a round table, because then people can't tell rank, right? And so they just started, this guy, he was a white guy. He started asking me to take notes, and I just laughed. And then after about the second time he asked me if I got that down, if I could get him the notes, I then broke it down to him who I was. And I say, you don't come into the room and ask a woman to take notes. I've had other situations where I'm working with men, and you could tell how they treat their wives, because the woman on the team, they start trying to treat you like you their girlfriend or something. And you got to know how to check that. I'm never in a room where I'm dressed in a way where you made a mistake and was not clear on what I showed up for. Never. You ain't never mistake me for the neighborhood streetwalker or the afternoon stripper. You never confuse me with that. But it just shows what's in the mindset and in the mentality. So some of us as women, sometimes we got to check our dress and say, what is my uniform saying? And then other times, especially as a woman, you're looking on a project to see what is their go-to behavior. What are they going to do? How are they handling you when you're not looking? And this is oftentimes why a lot of women get overlooked for promotions or get cheated out of money and things like that, because the man is thinking, oh, she don't need that. Some people get all in your business. Oh, she don't need that. She don't got no children. She don't have nobody. They automatically start getting in your business and start deciding how they're going to distribute to you. I was very, very fortunate not to have to deal with that. So it's something to pay attention to. Let's see who we got here in the chat. I got one question that you guys asked me that I am going to answer. I see you, Brother Lamont. Good morning and walaikum salam. Happy Saturday, sir. Who is this? This is your brother, Robert, 11X Minor. Walaikum salam, sir. How are you? Yep, self-awareness and accountability is very, very true. You gotta step back and check yourself. Even if you're innocent, step back and pay attention to the conditions. Say, what were the conditions in that environment or in that room? Right? You gotta own it. Okay. Sister Aletha says, Assalamu alaikum. Happy Saturday, sis. Wa alaikum salam. Sister Betty. Happy Saturday, Sister Betty. Let's see. Brother Lamont said, I'm very careful about honesty. Your show on love bombing really helped me identify that. Yeah. The love bombing, most people, because they're not experienced in relationships and understanding that there are different types of relationships. So they treat every relationship the same. And some men only feel, and women only feel power when it comes to sexual power. That's their only sense of power, is sexual power. And so they will exert sexual power or attempt to exert sexual power everywhere they go. And so this whole concept of love bombing in business, thank you, Timestamp Army, for tapping in. The whole concept in business is to love bomb you. They especially if it's a female. So they start pretending almost like they're courting you to be in a relationship, and there's just this huge amount of love bombing, but really they're trying to get the contract, or really they're trying to just see what they can get out of you, or they want you to get them money. And I don't want to make this a male bashing show, but I want this to be a teaching moment. The amount of men that ask women for money or take money from women or manipulate from women to get money is staggering. If you really knew, you would be really shocked, because a lot of men ain't gonna tell you. They ain't gonna tell their boys that she paying all the bills, or it's, whatever percentage split it is. They don't always tell the boys that. Their homeboys think, because they got nice trinkets and nice cars and nice toys, that they got it going on. But really, they might have 2 or 3 women that they get money from. And as a woman in business, when I'm coaching a lot of women in business, I'm oftentimes coaching you not to fall into these situations or go into a contractual relationship with somebody under the pretense or under the umbrella that they're love bombing you. And see, love bombing is interesting. Those kind of things are interesting, because somebody can only love bomb you if your boundaries are down and if you're letting them, right? Because if you got boundaries up and them giving you a gift doesn't really matter to you, then that gift is not going to persuade you to do business with them. I put out a RFP for a project I was doing in Maryland one time. And we had people come and bid. And this particular guy was sending cards, flowers. And if I wasn't an aware woman, I could have responded from a space of need, from a space of desire, from a space of feeling good, and given him the contract, even though he wasn't qualified. So the love bombing was, okay, I know she's a single woman, so let me send cards, let me send flowers, let me be excessively complimentary. It was almost like I was meeting someone that wanted to date me or wanted to be, court me, whatever language you use, who wanted to get to know me in that manner. But really, he was just trying to get a contract. He was a whole married man. And I had to say to him, I said, um, what I'm most interested in are your credentials as a contractor. Let me see your resume. Let me see your accomplishments. Let me see your references. Let me see what you've done. These cards and flowers, you can't get a contract like that. And he admittedly said that it's worked before. But you got to be mindful of that. Men too, it goes both ways. Because a lot of women, a lot of us know that you all as men sometimes are not sophisticated when it comes to relationships. And so we play an ego game. We may, compliment you. We may do all kind of stuff that makes you feel like, okay, I'm going to get a contract to her because you like how it feels being with her because she's making you feel a certain kind of way. But then, she gets the contract and she's not qualified. That becomes a challenge. That becomes a challenge for people like me because I don't do that. I've never had to sleep with nobody for a contract. I've never done that. I've never created a relationship with somebody that was inappropriate just to get a contract. Um, I've always been blessed to be able to do it the straight up I's dotted, T's crossed type of way. And there's contracts that I missed because other women came to the table and turned on that savoir faire and got the contract over me. Most of the times they were not as qualified as me, but I don't toe that line just to get a contract or a project or anything like that. That's just not my vibe or my style. There's a lot of women who do it. There's a lot of professional women who have done it. A lot of women in high places who have done it. But that came from something that my father taught me and talked to me about. And so I never felt like I needed that. I never felt like I needed that. And if I missed a contract or missed a project because I wouldn't interact with you in a certain kind of way, then I just missed it. I just missed it. I've had people tell me, like, had you done that 1 or 2 or 3 times, you probably would be a billionaire. I remember this African guy telling me, he said, if you, how did he put it? I forget how he put it, but he was trying to compare me to Oprah. And he was like, now, if you had did this and you had did that, he had this thing broken down. He was somebody that worked for me. And he was like, had you, done these things, then you would be here. And I said, I just never felt like I needed it. I never felt like I needed it. I'm so blessed to grow up in a household that did not make me feel like I needed something else in order to be successful. So I'm very, very grateful for that. I didn't need that. Let's see what y'all saying. Yeah, no selling out, selling yourself short, standing on business. Yeah, I'm grateful, and I'm very grateful, and I'm not judging anybody who has, because sometimes if you've been taught that that's how you do it, then that's what you do. Or if you are in a weak or vulnerable place and that's what you do, that happens. So I'm not being judgy. I'm just saying I'm speaking to my blessings and I'm bearing witness to my blessings, that I'm grateful that I didn't grow up in an environment where I felt like I had to do something. I remember even when I went to college and everybody was pledging and they didn't pick me, I didn't feel like I needed it. I I was like, I don't really necessarily need that. And that was just kind of how I live my life. Um, what I need is God. What I need is that love from family. I need that download. But I don't need I didn't need that. Walaikum salam, sir. Hadi Duran, welcome. Thank you. Um, so yeah, so some of you asked me a question. I got a lot of questions. I think after the financial boot camp about meditation. I'm gonna try to summarize the response. Some people asked me, when did you start meditating? Who taught you to meditate? Um, do you meditate instead of praying? Um, there was a whole bunch of questions around meditation. So um, if I give the answer in totality, so growing up, and this story is probably funny to some of you all, no matter what was wrong with you, my grandmother would say, get somewhere and sit down. No matter what. You could have a stomach ache. She said, well, get somewhere and sit down. Your throat could be hurting. She'll say, get somewhere and sit down. You could have said, I just had a fight at school. Get somewhere and sit down. Now, if it was real bad, get somewhere and sit down and get you some water and sit down. And so she make you get in that big old chair and give you that little Dixie cup. Y'all remember them Dixie cups used to be on the wall, a little dispenser with a little water, and she hands you the Dixie cup. And then next thing you know, you sitting there for 30 minutes with your little Dixie cup looking around. She always had a little TV tray next to the chair. You sitting there with the Dixie cup just looking around, looking stupid. And then next thing you know, you're forced to think. And then maybe after about an hour or so, she'd tell you, come get something to eat, or come out on the porch, or let's go do something, but you always were forced to sit down. And I think that was her way almost of the universe's way of introducing meditation to me. Because after I got older, even though it was still always get somewhere and sit down, but I would just do it on my own. I would just get quiet, go sit out on the porch. I remember sitting on the porch with my grandmother. She'd be on one end and I'm on the other end. And after I combed her hair, we'd just sit there in silence. We had a lot of moments together, my grandmother and I, where we just sat in silence. And so silence as a tool was introduced to me at a very, very young age. And even when I wasn't at my grandmother's house and I was at home, my parents allowed me specifically, but me to be silent. Or they never bothered me. I had, now that I think about it, I said, this was probably a mess, but they never said anything. I had a synthesizer in my room. I had had my flute. I had a radio and my records. And I would be in there for hours. And practicing, like I would play a song and then try to play it on the little synthesizer thing and go back and forth and play stuff. And reading a lot. So this kind of vibration was already in me. So when I got to college and the concept of formal meditation was introduced to me, and it wasn't that somebody introduced it to me. I remember I was a tutor for the foreign cultures department, and I was waiting on one of my students, and there was a number of people outside the foreign affairs department just kind of sitting on the grass. Well, I'm an outdoorsy, sit on the grass, walk in the rain type of person because I'm always looking for Allah. When I feel him, I just want to bask in it. If it's windy, I can feel Allah in the wind. If it's raining, I could feel Allah on in the rain. If it's sunny, I can feel Allah in the sun, in the grass. So I sat there and I used to just get there like an hour ahead and just sit in the grass quietly. And one day I walked up to the building and the woman who I was teaching, I remember she was from Sudan. I had to teach her conversational English. And she said to me, I was waiting for you to finish your meditation. And I just was like, oh, okay. I had never heard or thought of what I had been doing since my grandmother said, get somewhere and sit down as meditation. And so I went and looked it up. I started studying it, different techniques, focusing on the breath. And so I would do it numerous times a day. Um, and so I would meditate, and that became part of my life practices. So that answers that question. And then when I became a Muslim, I started to really understand prayer better. And so I've always used the two. So if there's 5 a.m. prayer, then I'm up at 4 or 4:15 so that I can meditate before prayer because it's my way of calibrating myself before I address Allah. And so, and then sometimes I go back into meditation after prayer, but it's been a technique that I use even in corporate America. Um, just, with the struggles a lot of times that you have, I would go to my desk, do a 5-minute, 10-minute meditation before I kind of channel sometimes. And sometimes before I channel, I'll do a meditation. I'll do meditation between, if I have a day of coaching or a day of consulting, I'll do a meditation in between, maybe before a meeting or after a meeting. But it's just a tool that I've used my entire life. I use it to heal myself. If I'm hurting, if something hurt my feelings, if something made me sad, if I got a cold, if I don't feel good, or whatever. Even if I feel good, I use it. So um, the answer to that is yes, it's been a tool that I've used over the years. Let's see. Nana Kose Ventures says, good day. Welcome, welcome. Sister Monica's in the house. Assalamu alaikum, sis. She said, just be, I have a few of my grandchildren who can really informally meditate. It is awesome to see, especially the young males. Yeah. Um, I've been doing it since forever. I did not see it as a child as meditating. I always felt, now I'm really telling y'all my business. I've always felt this entity, this energy that I enjoyed feeling. And so being quiet, I'd sit outside until I got stung by a bee or something, but I just would feel that energy and sit outside or sit anywhere and feel that energy. Um, I didn't mind. I wouldn't mind. I'm allergic to seafood, and I grew up in a Creole family, so y'all already know that that's a problem, right? With the crawfish and all of that. And my grandmother would be making fish, and she'd just tell me go sit on the porch, and I would go sit out there, and she just fry her fish or whatever, and open the back door and let the air, I guess, let the fish air out, and then after it aired out a little bit, then I could come back in. But what would I do out there? I'd take a book out there and I'd meditate, be looking at the grass, and I learned. So I like meditating near water because I can really feel the energy of the water. Any natural element is easy to meditate for me. The way my gift works, it's easy for me to get in state around natural elements, water, fire, like a candle, um, sun, grass, trees. Um, but I've been stuck in hotels and had to learn to meditate to the air condition, the sound of the air blowing. So, um, yeah, Brother Lamont said he misses grandmother. I miss mine too. But I feel her energy often, so I don't miss her that I don't miss her that much. I feel her energy, and whenever I miss her, I just pull her up, Brother Lamont. Just you got a database in your brain and your spirit. Just go to the database and go get grandma, and then she'll be right there. You'll feel her. You can sit with her and your energy. Um, that's just that's just how it is. And so even with business, so the other question was, how does meditation work for you in the space of business? I think I answered that. Um, if there's a problem, if there's an issue, as a consultant, I'm in and out with different customers and different clients. And so I got to recalibrate myself. It's almost like if you go to the perfume counter during the holidays and you're smelling all this different perfume, you got to stop for a minute and take a coffee bean and smell the coffee beans just to get your to recalibrate your senses, your sense of smell. I do that between, people. And sometimes something is so big that I just look on the calendar and I go, nope, can't do nothing else today. It just depends. So, but in business, most of the time, I get a lot of solutions to problems. Literally, I'll give you an example. I was on a call last week for a project that the team that I am on is listed on. And as we were waiting on the Zoom, well, before I had a couple minutes of quiet, but the meeting, I had a meeting back to back. The meetings were back to back. So all I had time to do was to go in between and grab some water, run to the restroom, and come and sit back and get ready for the next segment. And in that little moment where I went into state, I literally got the download of every question that they were going to ask us and every issue that they were going to bring up, like literally as we were sitting there waiting. And I was having fun during the meeting, just going, okay, next, just check. All right, I saw that one. Check, check. I was enjoying myself and I'm smiling, and they probably thought, wow, she really smiles a lot, but I'm smiling because I'm validating Allah's presence, because I'm like, oh, you said that one. Yep, check, check. I was having a good time. And so in business, I'm very blessed to be able to see solutions, to see problems in advance, to figure out problems. And that's another reason why I've not had to perform in a certain way. But anyway, so that's the answer to that question. Diane Thomas, welcome. Anybody else? Any other questions? We have another financial trauma boot camp part 2 coming up September 15th. So mark the date. I didn't announce it. I was going to put it out and finish everything this week, but looks like we may have a sponsor. So we may be able to get the price down a little bit. I think it's going to be in the neighborhood, don't quote me, of around under 100, about $88 or something like that. So once I solidify that, inshallah, next week, we will we'll come out with that. I need a lot of you all to join. The goal this time is 500 people to the Financial Trauma Boot Camp. We're going to have a trauma expert on. I'm just working to secure her. We're going to have a foreclosure expert on that's going to answer your questions. If you're going through foreclosure, if you're trying to prevent yourself from going through foreclosure, if you're going through it and you just don't understand what's going on, you're trying to figure it out, figuring out what you can do so that you don't have this traumatic event or this level of financial devastation in your life. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be doing a little bit of conversation about credit and working on that and, what happens. But we want to tie all of this to our emotions and our emotional states. So if you're going through a divorce, how does that impact your emotional state when it comes to running your business? If you are facing or being threatened with foreclosure, how does that affect your emotional state when you're in business and going into business? If you lose an income source and your credit suffers, how does that impact you emotionally? And how do we prevent these events from having these negative effects on our lives that then become crippling, something we got to heal from, something that now we got PTSD. How do we do that? Because what happens for a lot of us is when these events happen, or the threat of these events, or the thought of it, or anything, we get paralyzed and we get afraid and we're nervous and we don't know what to do. And we can't, not only do we not have the technical or maybe the legal help to support us, but we don't have the emotional stability and support. A lot of us go to church, a lot of us go to mosque, a lot of us go to temples, some of us don't. But even then, oftentimes we're not coming forward telling people what we're going through. So those places of spirituality that we depend on are not able to help us oftentimes when it comes to financial trauma, because we're not necessarily transparent. We're worried about being judged. We're worried about all these things. So we're not necessarily transparent when it comes to that kind of thing. And then people do be judging you, and sometimes you don't want folks in your business. So the way we do these workshops is when you get on, even if you have a question, I don't call your name. Nobody will see you. We do it webinar style. This one is going to be online. We may have a small studio audience, but it's totally anonymous. And then for the subject matter experts that we have on, there'll be a way to contact them on your own terms, in your own time, so that you could get the help that you need. So if you know you need help with foreclosure, if you know you need help with credit, if you know you need help with some other level of trauma, whether it's divorce or whatever, we'll have those resources available right, during and after their presentations, so that you can get the help that you need. Let me know in the chat if this sounds good to you all, if there's something else you'd like to see in Financial Trauma Bootcamp Part 2. Number 1 was hugely successful. We were able to make a big impact on a lot of people, got some people some help. And so let me know in the chat if you like this approach And if there's something else that you think, just give me your opinion before we go. We got about 10 minutes. I spoke to you. Yes. Okay. All right. So that's the idea behind Financial Trauma Boot Camp Part 2. And the goal is, well, this was born out of, as I'm coaching and consulting a lot of us in business, there's so much trauma surrounding whatever it is that we do. And a lot of times it's the trauma that prevents us from being successful, and not our technical skills, not our lack of knowledge. There's some smart small business owners out there. Some brilliant Black people going into business, very smart. What's preventing us? What's stopping us from, moving to that next level? In many cases, it is the trauma that we're trying to navigate through. And here's the other piece of it. A lot of people, they're going to counseling, and they're doing all these different programs. But without the spirituality, it's tough. It's tough because are you and I going to necessarily out strategize the wealthy in the world and become, their competitors? Maybe not. But is there an energy source that's outside of ourselves that we can, I won't even say outside of ourselves, but is there an energy source that we can plug into and tap into that'll help us perform beyond our intellectual capacity? And the answer to that is yes. Because if it's just based on our intellectual capacity, then there's only so much progress we're going to make, right? So we got to figure out how to go beyond that. What does that mean? We're not talking spookism here. When you are going into a creative space, when you learn how to use a creative space and the power of creativity in a number of different ways, you start tapping into that source that I'm talking about. Creativity when it comes to putting your agreements and your contracts together. So you may say, here's the law. Here's what I want. Here's what they want. Here's a traditional contract. None of that really fits. So how do I creatively put something together that is within the parameters of the law, but also gives everybody what it is that they want, or at least most of what they want? You got to be creative with that sometimes. Sometimes you got to be creative with the products that you put together, the partnerships. What are the thoughts? When you pool resources and you and I leverage customers, that it's a beautiful thing, because 9 times out of 10, I got somebody in my Rolodex per se, or in my phone that you need, and vice versa. And so when we share, you never know, you are probably one introduction away, one step away from a huge change and shift in your business. One introduction away. And so that's why I never hesitate. I love friends who are open about introducing people, and I never hesitate to see what I can do to help push somebody's business forward, because just me helping them may push me even closer. And the more people that I help and support, I see my own pipeline building and expanding. So it's a beautiful thing. It's a great thing. And it just takes time, to learn yourself and learn who you are. And I'm so grateful and thankful to be who I am and where I am right now, because I'm learning myself. I'm so excited about what I'm learning and who I am and the woman that I'm becoming. I love her, and she's just so amazing to me. And I enjoy sharing it. So brother said that part right there, knowing when you help people, you're helping yourself. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Because a lot of us are so stingy and always trying to be so safe and live a life of subtraction that we don't help anybody, and we don't realize that by functioning at that scarcity mindset vibration, plugging into that grid is a recipe for disaster. So, all right, y'all, we will see you all Monday for Sajdah's Monday morning motivation. Tuesday, State of Black Business. We're going to go over another component of corporate governance. We'll continue that series. Let's see, Thursday, Mind of an Entrepreneur show. We're on chapter 7 of the Mind of an Entrepreneur book. And then Friday and Saturday, we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what we're going to do. All right, family, peace and blessings, you all. Wishing you all more goodness than you've ever experienced or imagined. Thank you, Sister Betty. She said, have a great weekend, everyone. Anything, couple minutes you want me to talk about? Otherwise, it's going to be a happy Saturday. All right, y'all. I will see you all, inshallah, on Monday. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum.